events associated with it are by no means a reflection that you cannot do your job or you are weak. Need help and support? Please contact us at the hotline 311 Psychosocial Support at 722-6575 or 518-4157. Brought to you by PAHO, the OACS Commission, and UNICEF.
I can't stay.
Morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the show. It is Thursday, April 8th, 2021. I hope that you guys are doing okay, as always. We have a lot to talk about, so we'll get right into it. Let me say good morning to those of you listening to us on Hits FM. That's 92.1 and 91.1 as well. That's our radio partner station. Also, if you are watching us on the different social media platforms where we are streaming at this moment, good morning to you and thank you for joining us on your Thursday. And of course, we cannot forget those of you watching us on television. Always a pleasure to have you here. We appreciate it. Now, it's going to be different, and I want you to bear with me. I think that a lot of what we see and talk about, we look at the talking heads, the ministers, the opposition. We listen to what they're saying, especially now with the atmosphere, the real partisan politics that's going on. But I do think, in a way that, if you're not able to go out in the field as you're used to with the curfew and everything else, I think that there are other issues at play here that we need to look at. Now, it might not seem like it, but there are similarities with the next couple of clips we're going to be playing. So take a look.
Good night, you're on the air. Let's keep it real.
Yeah, so I just want to know how deep. Hello?
Go ahead, caller.
Yeah, how deep is your head of the Prime Minister's butt?
You're spoiling it for people who want to make a real Flushmate, man. Flushmate, that's what you do. No, there's nothing better than that. Good night, you're on the air. Let's keep it real.
Nobby, man, buddy. What's up, buddy?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, man, I call your program Keeping It Comical, man. Keeping It Comical. You're the best, man. You're the best comedian in the world, man. You're the best comedian, man.
But you know what? Man. You know what? Yeah, Thank you very much. You're an even bigger comedian, man.
But I
try to learn under you, man. Brother, have a good night. Flush him. Waste of time. Bottom of the hour. We have one more. We have one more call coming through. Good night, you're on the air. Let's keep it real.
Yeah, so I just want to know how deep. Hello?
Go ahead, caller.
Yeah, how deep is your head of the Prime Minister's butt?
You're on the air. Let's keep it real.
Yeah. Hello.
Right, you're on the air.
Yes.
You're on the air. Go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Number. Good night.
Good night to you. Go ahead.
How are you? How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Go ahead.
All right, Mr. Number. Why you just put take out your cockot and put it at the front end?
Well, you see, folks, big people talking at this time of the night. You call in to talk nonsense. Go and pee and go and sleep. Big people talking, flush him. Papi show. Uga gaspie credit. Pukuye disa. What did you accomplish? making an ignoramus of yourself. Upa hot.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
Hi, Miss Belrose.
Hi, good evening, my dear.
And how are you?
Always fine, thanks.
Wonderful. Miss Belrose, your husband has been seen driving you around on government business.
Yes.
Is he employed by the government?
Yes.
To render his service?
Yes, he is employed by the government. I did not believe that I could have been an effective minister without having my husband with me on this journey. And so I spoke to my Prime Minister. I spoke about my trepidations and everything else with respect to that job. And he did say to me, okay, I will facilitate. And that's what a good Prime Minister does. He listens, he understands the dynamics of the situation, and he provides the support to make it happen. So my driver is a young man who was given, I say young man, he was given all his life of service to St. Lucia as well. He was a national athlete for a number of years, and one of the best athletes St. Lucia had in 1980.
I don't really want to know about him. I would prefer to know more about you.
Now, when you look back on that, and it might not seem like it, but the similarities to me, it's the callers on every show, on my show, on several other talk shows. You know, you will get different callers telling you different things. But I do think that even now, you could think what you want about, you know, the responses to Norbert's show. I mean, you know, if it makes you laugh, it makes you laugh. And if it doesn't, then too bad for you. But I think there are some real issues that are coming up when a caller decides to say what's on their mind, to ask a question. It is very difficult, I think, to get people who are in charge of, you know, different ministries, to get the Prime Minister. We know he's on Sky FM and we know what that is. But you know, it's difficult to get people, to get to these people and ask questions on your own. And I talk like, you know, a media person, but just for a normal person, and you know, you have credit on your phone or you have your home phone, just to call and speak directly to the Prime Minister. And I think yesterday, we saw that the Prime Minister was open for calls. People could have called and discussed anything that they wanted. And I think throughout, especially the recent months, we're seeing that. And for me personally, with the show, I know that I truly do appreciate the callers, those who do not agree with me. I welcome those who have taught me things, even from the very beginning. I speak about that a lot when, you know, I remember a call saying, you know, Tresha, you're being naive, why are you believing these things or whatever. I've also had callers, and we remember that too. And I have to say thank you to those who helped when there was this one caller who needed help with his children. We helped with that too. So, you know, it's not just, you know, people just calling for calling's sake. These are people out in the communities, and they have their own personal experiences. So when you do get the opportunity to speak with the Prime Minister, especially, you know, you do that, and that happened last evening. And because of that, I wanted to make the callers the subject instead. We know what the Prime Minister is going to say, and I must be very frank with you. I listened last night to Timothy Polio's Newsmaker Live, and it was more of the same. And when I had to dissect, and then there were the lies that you have to debunk, I said, you know what, I didn't want to go into it. I instead think that the callers are what we need to focus on, because they give us a sort of reflection or an echo of what's happening in the wider community. So we will start there. We'll start listening to some of the callers who called on the show, speaking directly to the Prime Minister.
Congratulate you on your performance, and I want to say kudos to you in helping my MP to finally give us a school in Lage. Mr. PM, I don't know what we would do without you, because you coming into our lives in St. Lucia is a savior. You know, because it's only under UWP that St. Lucia can survive. And without you, with that COVID, I don't know what we would do.
Now, again, very interesting stuff. And you could say what you want, but if there are people seated at their homes and that is what, you know, they're thinking, you're thinking that the Prime Minister, you know, coming there like Moses, and I don't know. Because I think we're mixing up the different parables, different stories within the Bible, because they'll call him Moses, then they will, you know, call it Pharaoh and let my people go, then you'll talk about Jesus. And so for me, and we've seen that before, we've had that discussion where people use religion, use God, that he was ordained by the Almighty to come down to assist St. Lucia in what we're going through. And it's very telling, revealing to me that that is how people are thinking. And of course the Prime Minister is not saying anything, just, you know, nodding, smiling and blushing. But let's continue. Let's listen to the other calls.
It's a small business, it's loan for small businesses, but you hear they tell you what are your assets. As somebody that's a owner of a small business, number one, it's small. Number two, I don't have, so I'm trying to get something. So at the end of the day, where would my assets be? I would not have a car, I would not have a house. So there are some things the government can put in place. Maybe you cannot get a loan someplace else, if in case you cannot pay back the loan or something. They have other avenues the government can put in place to help persons in that area. Because as a small business owner, we're struggling, we're small, we're not big as yet. So we need the help and the support from government. Especially with COVID, I find they can do better, they can do more.
Hi, good night, team.
Hi, good evening to you, caller.
Prime Minister.
Good night, sir.
One question I want to ask is, with tourism and the flights getting back together in St. Lucia shortly, what exactly do you have in place for the taxi drivers in terms of getting allowing the taxi drivers to have proper vehicles? I'm talking about the concession. And what exactly is SLB doing to make that happen? Because I mean, SLB is supposed to be, you know, supporting that sector as well. I'm not seeing much happening with that, and not much is being spoken of as it relates to the concession. I mean, is because of COVID, are you going to extend the time on the concession? Because a year has passed. You remember it was 2 years that the concession was supposed to be for. First, and what is going to happen, and how much support are we going to get from SLBB?
And I think we have to encourage a lot of that, where we get people who do have their concerns, and sometimes when you're not able to meet directly with the Prime Minister, like I've said before, you have to ask the question. So again, a reflection of what's happening in our country, things that we've spoken about, that people do, small business owners especially, want to know what's in it for them. How can they get a loan when, you know, the stipulations are so difficult and restrictive? And you know, you have to ask the Prime Minister that. And like I said, I didn't want to put it out with the Prime Minister, because it was more of the same. And I think much of that we've heard before. So we heard more of the, you know, go through the government processes and they have certain things in place. I think really the important factor is to know that, like we've said before, small business people, even in all of this, the taxi drivers, the bus drivers, the lady who called saying that, you know, she's trying to get a loan, and people are saying, you know, trying to make a list of assets when she's just starting off. And it really does put into the context for us that although we're giving out millions to supposed investors, the nationals who are here, who are trying to struggle, trying to build on what they have, they face some serious restrictions, some serious obstacles. So again, these are some of the realities that we're facing, but you know what, we'll just take a couple more so we understand where we are, where many people are, their own experiences, and we'll come back.
Yeah, I'm calling from Roddy North.
Okay.
Yeah, I just want to make a contribution. You know, the place has been locked down a whole year, and people are crying. People can't send the children to school. I'm feeling sorry for all the people that have the children and they can't really feed them how they want. And these guys just are the only one that have a good salary. I know I vote for these guys, but I don't think I can vote for these guys again. I'm not happy. People crying a whole year. No silicon people back. Wasco. People done for calling people like mad. People can't pay their water bill, the electricity, everything not good. They say they bring electricity for people. They only pay 1 month, 2 months. It's a gimmick. And if they alone and have a good job and their salary is good for 5 years straight, and no one can beat them. And I want them to remember all the people that they fire. These people have a family, and they're waiting for them. They're waiting for them. I vote for them once, twice. I don't think I can go this time. I have to say it with all my heart. It's not good. It's not good. We need a change. Thank you.
All right, thanks a lot, Mr. Prime Minister.
Well, I mean, I'm very difficult to appreciate the person who voted for us in the first time. I think he is repeating the propaganda of the Labour Party, and that's his prerogative. But certainly the information that he has just espoused is not true.
Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying with us. Let's see if we get the Prime Minister. Good evening, Newsmaker Live, you're on the air.
To you, Tim.
Hello.
Pleasant good evening to your honorable guest.
Hello, good evening to you.
Hi, good evening, Tim. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, please, caller.
Okay, good evening to our honorable Prime Minister. I'm calling, I hear a lot of focus on infrastructural development, roads, visible things, but I'm not seeing, like the caller from Mondidor, I voted for this government, I supported them, but like him, I have buyer's remorse. I'm not seeing, and I know the Ambassador Fletcher called to talk about the detractors, etc. But friend Tim and dear PM, and the friend is not leading you if you're doing something that's not kosher or not exactly right. As your friend, they should tell you what you're doing that's not right. Now I'm speaking specifically, okay, I'm not looking for handouts, COVID relief, but I own a business in the CDC. And during the lockdown, the Prime Minister, that's one of your first, that's the time we were giving you all the kudos. I mean, you stepped up to the plate and offered relief. And you said public, you're actually encouraging landlords to waive rent. And I'm saying the government owning the CDC buildings, Housing Development Authority, is expecting vendors like me, tenants like me, to pay for rent when there was no business. I would have loved to come and open my business and make $1. The place was closed for weeks. And in all fairness, Prime Minister, if we can take money to build roads, some places repave roads that were already good. I'm thinking the news, it was very topical in the news week before, when the lady responsible from the Housing Authority says that tenants are liable unless she gets a further directive. So I'm on national TV asking dear PM for you to honor your promise to the tenants in the CDC, business owners, to waive rent, especially, I'm not asking about when we open, I mean, what you say is what you read, to waive rent for the time when the country is under national curfew. That's one. Secondly, PM, as a proud St. Lucian, I think that you are visionary, I agree. But when it comes to nationalism and patriotism, I think we're losing points in that regard. We hear Carbot, we hear DSH, etc. I'm all in for development. But if you can tell me, I think you have your issues with Mr. Tulsi and the National Trust. If we look at what the National Trust, they mandate and what they're responsible for, I think the National Trust is bigger than the feud between yourself and Mr. Vishnu Tulsi. And it's about time that you bury the hatchet and start giving. If it's $1 million a year, we have, I mean, endless money about the place. Give him $2 million here, 500. I think we have to invest in St. Lucia and St. Lucians. And I think it's about time that National Trust gets a plug. I mean, a lot of people like me who voted for your party are saying they refuse to vote because, I mean, it's half a dozen, 6 and whatever. But I refuse to say I'm not voting. And a lot of people like me on the fence. I'm watching it closely. And if I have to drive them personally to vote, I think the onus is on you for us to see a different shift, a different ball game for us to decide where we're voting. But we will vote. Thank you.
Thank you so much for calling, ma'am. Mr. Prime Minister.
So there's a multitude of things that the caller brought into play, but it seems the player is using the old trick of suggesting that they supported my party, because in fact, if she had supported the party, then she would have known the answer to many of the questions that she asked. So this idea that there were roads that were repairing that didn't repair it, I would love to know which road that was not in need of repairing. I've heard persons suggest the Corinth Road or the Grand Rivera Road. When you go to the constituency in that area, I think they would give you a very different story as to whether in fact that road needed to be repaired. So this idea that there were roads that were repairing that didn't repair, and I would love to know which road that was not in need of repairing. I've heard persons suggest the Corinth Road or the Grand Rivera Road. When you go to the constituency in that area, I think they would give you a very different story as to whether in fact that road needed to be repaired.
So with this one, I think, again, very telling, a different kind of person. Well, two people calling in to say, you know what, I was a United Workers' Party supporter. I voted for you. I believed in your vision. In fact, the woman even said, I still consider you a visionary, but I just don't think the things that you are doing, it's patriotic or it's national or it's for solutions. And it was interesting, at least those responses, because you hear the Prime Minister say to both of these people who were his supporters, who voted for him, who wanted to be part of it, that they were repeating SLP propaganda. Said that to the first gentleman who called. And I do think that that is so disrespectful to say to someone, and I do again have to applaud certain people, because it's easy. What you get many of the supporters doing is, you know what, even though you're feeling it, even though you're hungry, even if you have things to say because you vote in the party, because you support the party, you know what, just shut up, we're still là, and say nothing. But I do think that especially in this time, it does call for some courage to say, you know what, some of what you're doing is not right, and I don't think I'll be supporting you in the future. And I think saying it directly to the Prime Minister, I think too, was telling. So when you're going to say that and you say that's the old trick, you know, of the Prime Minister answers, that's an old trick of pretending that you are a supporter of the party anyway, and if you were a supporter, then you would know all of the things that are being done. That it continues to show where we are as a people and the sort of leadership that you're seeing. Unless you're kissing the ass of the Prime Minister, your concerns will not be taken into consideration at all. Either you were never a supporter, that's SLP propaganda, you don't know what you're talking about. I saw that and it was just very disrespectful to me, as well as, you know, there was a lot of it, and I wanted us to see his facial expressions too as all these things were being said. And I think to many callers, people who are there, who watch the news, who understand what's going on, you can tell the vindictiveness of it. Because if you're going to say, this lady said about Tulsi and how he is being treated, that there are bigger things at play here. Telling the Prime Minister, you know what, come together, let's do better, and you're going to disrespect the woman by just rubbishing her claims, rubbishing what she's saying. That really, I think that was the whole show for me. The callers were the show. It showed me where they were. Some people saying that, you know, the Prime Minister is a savior, come to bring us to heaven. And others want, you know, assistance, and others just want him to do better, or they're not going to vote for you. And I know a lot of people feel that way. A lot of people do feel that way, and it is the reality of where we are. But you know what, let's just do one more, bear with me, one more call. And that one too was interesting.
First caller 9, hello, good evening to you. This is Newsmaker Live, you're on the air.
Yeah, good night. Good night.
Hello, good evening to you, caller.
Yeah, good night. Okay. Good night to you guys.
Yes, go ahead, please.
I want to ask the Prime Minister if he have any regrets.
Unfortunately, I can't hear the call, but can you go ahead, please, caller?
Yeah, if you have any regrets in referring to St. Lucians as backing dogs, jackasses, and mendicants, and when is he going to...
No, can you repeat again, because I just cannot hear you properly.
If you have any regrets, the Prime Minister, if you have any regrets in referring to St. Lucians as backing dogs, mendicants, jackasses, and when he intends to completely eliminate that as a public image to the people.
No.
Okay, I'm not hearing the call. I was hoping if we have a technical issue that we could try to rectify it. Let's continue with the broadcast, and once again, your calls on the program Newsmaker Live with the Prime Minister of St. Lucia, Mr. Alan Shasting.
I can't stay.
Welcome to the Entertainment Nation on steroids. UTV and Hits FM, sinking the eyes and the ears of tomorrow today. Not only can you see it, you can feel it. Airing on channel 124 or tune into Radio 92.1 FM is Tresha Lionel in the morning at 11. Also airing live with Lisa and the ever-controversial Revolution with Christopher Hunt. That's right, we don't do it normal. Stay locked in with UTV and Hits FM, channel 124 and 92.1 FM. UTV, TV for you.
The COVID vaccine is here and is for people 18 years and older.
High-risk healthcare workers, first responders, law enforcement,
as well as people living with chronic conditions.
And our seniors 65 and over. The vaccine is absolutely free.
Ou sa registre online, en community center qui en community ou.
Or with your private healthcare provider. Vaccinate for you.
Pour moi.
For us.
UTV, TV for you.
Welcome back, and thank you very much for staying with us. If you're listening to us on radio on our partner station Hits FM, if you are watching us on the different social media platforms, and of course if you're watching us on television, thank you very much. Now, listen, we are seeing in real time, and we've seen it before, and I think in the past 4 years, of people needing information and it just being denied, and I think we're seeing more of it recently. So let's start here. Let's start with a request being made by the opposition.
The opposition, St. Lucia Labour Party, SLP, wants to take a first-hand look at the St. Jude Hospital reconstruction site in Vieux-Fort. Communications officer in the SLP, Mondi Lewis, in a press statement issued on Tuesday, April 6, says the opposition has sent correspondence to the relevant government minister requesting a tour.
In view of recent reports concerning disturbing developments in relation to the St. Jude Hospital reconstruction project, the leader of the opposition, Honorable Philip J. Pierre, has written to the Minister of Economic Development, Honorable Guy Joseph, seeking clearance for a delegation from the opposition to visit the site of the project. The visit has been proposed for Thursday, 8th April 2021.
The much-delayed St. Jude Hospital project has been mired in controversy for many years. The SLP has skewered the Alan Shasti administration's temporary halt of construction back in August 2016.
The reconstruction project had commenced in 2011 under the previous UWP administration and was continued by the last SLP government. However, in 2016, it was abandoned by the current UWP government, which embarked upon a new building for the hospital. This decision has been heavily criticized by the St. Lucia Labour Party and a number of experts as totally unnecessary, as the unfinished new complex of buildings constructed for the hospital could have been completed within 6 to 12 months, enabling patients and staff to work in a more conducive surroundings. The SLP also wishes to once more express its appreciation to the medical staff for their contribution to the healthcare of the people of St. Lucia during these trying times.
The St. Jude Hospital was razed by fire on the 9th of September 2009. Since the medical institution has been housed at the George Odlum Sports Stadium, which has deteriorated over the past few years.
So right there you're seeing that request being made to, see what's going on, because we've heard a lot of everything going on at St. Jude's and it will be done in whatever by this year. So, and I remember too, I remember Fortuna saying to Philip J. Pierre, you know, write, you need to write if you want to see things done. Okay, so you're going through the protocols, you're doing what you have to, and you write to the minister, and you want to understand what will happen then. Let's hear the Prime Minister's answer.
Will you be granting the leader of the opposition his wish to visit the St. Jude Hospital site tomorrow?
Well, first of all, he wrote the letter to the Minister of Economic Development, and I'm sure the minister will be responding to him. But, you know, if I had to look at it, I mean, to go and do a site inspection without taking into what has happened, I mean, I think that there needs to be a meeting to discuss from the time the St. Jude's burnt down to where we are now, and how we got there. I mean, it's just unimaginable for me to think that the former government would have spent that kind of money on a hospital and there's no planning approval. There was no finalized drawings. The question is, was there even a plan to transition from one facility to the other facility, and what accommodations have been made for that? So I think that, you know, I think it's a good thing for them to get together. I've not spoken to the minister. I'm sure he will respond accordingly. But look, we're always interested in having a discussion, and certainly if the opposition wants to bring technical people, then I think that we should bring all the technical people. And as I said to you, let's go back and discuss it from the beginning. And I think before you do a site inspection, it's more important to have that technical meeting. And if you're going to go for a site inspection, you should be a site inspection that includes both the old facility and a new facility, so we clearly understand what's happening.
So it will not take place tomorrow, as far as
I didn't say that. I'm not involved. The letter was not written to me. It was written to the Minister of Economic Development. I've been assured that the minister will respond to him, and so maybe it doesn't take tomorrow, but certainly can take place another date. But I certainly would suggest to the minister that there be some kind of technical meeting before there be a physical tour, in order that we all are on the same page.
Because in the press release, the SLP is saying that it's in view of recent reports concerning disturbing developments in relation to the project. Will the opposition to clarify this?
Well, I don't know what that means. But again, with the opposition, you never really know what they mean. I mean, they go out and they make all kinds of crazy allegations that are just easily verifiable. And are always trying to alarm people. So here you have a government on one hand that's trying to inspire people to get things done, and you have a political party that's old school, that is continuously wanting to drag St. Lucia's name through the mud and doesn't want to inspire and create pride in our country. We want to be able to be very uplifting. So I think there's a way of holding governments accountable. We certainly tried to practice that when we were in opposition, made sure that when we were being critical of the government, that we were not undermining the reputation of St. Lucia in any way.
This is your Prime Minister, our Prime Minister, St. Lucia's Prime Minister, saying that it's not up to me, it's up to Guy, you know, since he's, I guess, the Prime Minister's Prime Minister. So the Economic Development Minister now has to respond to the opposition, which again we know is more of an insult to our intelligence. The buck stops with the Prime Minister at all times. So we're seeing, you know, him again just trying to get away from the problem and get away from the question. And I think if you're going to go through the protocols, go through it in writing, do it in that way, that is something that's different, and we must remember too where that's coming from. So to see the Prime Minister now, who was some years ago in the same predicament and also wanted to see St. Jude's, and you know what, we'll take a look back at 2014 when they were in opposition and what that looked like.
The person who was in charge of the project, Shanta King, was on vacation. No one in the office wanted to make any decisions. And when we arrived down there, I think that the contractors fail to recognize that the parliamentarians have every right, because they represent the people, to have been there. And there's an obligation on their part to make sure funds are being spent in the appropriate way. Now, this is also on the heels of the fact that the government had indicated through the Minister of Health that last Christmas would have been the last in the facility. And as you know, Parliament just approved a $20 million loan from the Taiwanese to help complete the project. And I think it was in poor taste and it was inappropriate for the parliamentarians to be denied entrance into it. And one of the parliamentarians is actually the district representative that is being impacted by what is going on in the area.
So at that time, you'll remember that the opposition parliamentarians decided to go right there without any permission either, and there was no letter written, any permission sought. They decided to do that on their own. Now, when you go there, there's work ongoing, you don't have access, you didn't have permission, you cannot go on an ongoing project as it is without permission, without doing that. So I think when you're hearing the Prime Minister just, 5 years apart, treating opposition parliamentarians like that, when they're asking for permission, they're doing it in the way that they're supposed to, and there's no real answer being given except to say, not me, check somebody else, or there should be more of a meeting, or just talking around the issues and talking about, they're attacking government and making St. Lucia look bad, saying everything but giving an actual decision at all. And it's also very interesting to hear how vindictive I think the Prime Minister can be and his minions, because we have Peter Josie giving him some advice on what to do.
I want to compliment the very first caller. I think she made a good reference to Moses and Aaron. She did not say that Sir John Compton was Moses. He didn't exactly take us to the promised land. If you're a student of the Bible, you would know that it is Aaron who completed the journey. So I wanted to say that this is a good example, because these days I'm in my Bible very often. Secondly, I wanted to say very quickly to you that this morning on 93.1 FM with Champagne, myself and Sir Michael Chastney, I believe you know who that is, plus the callers, the consensus was that the letter to the opposition should simply state that we will consider it when it is convenient. That was the word of the morning. When it is convenient. I hope you get that message. I know you were not listening this morning. You were too busy being Prime Minister.
Well, I'll leave being deputy leader of the House.
I don't know when last I called.
So that's the advice that the Prime Minister is getting from Peter Josie, to say to the opposition, you know what, we'll respond to you, or you can do it when it's convenient. More of that sort of vindictive approach, a lack of respect that we're seeing here. But again, it's more insulting when you get to know that other people who can just ask to go and see it can see it. Let's take a look.
Sure. Well, we need to talk about the new future. You've criticized heavily the Cabot development. Wait a minute. The Prime Minister was there last week. I asked to see the hospital because it's been one of my biggest issues. He took me there yesterday.
But we wrote asking him.
Right, so we will talk about that, because I heard a letter came out yesterday.
He has the inside link.
I was there yesterday. He honored his promise.
Yeah.
He took me there yesterday, me with my 2 eyes hair. I went in there myself. I haven't told anybody. We haven't spoken about it. I haven't told them what I saw. I walked through every inch myself.
We'll talk about that.
When we come back, I want to talk about it because I've heard a lot of what you said, and you speak very passionately about these issues. And I know you guys released a letter yesterday, I think, with requests to see and all that. So when we come back, I'd like to discuss what I saw, and you'll tell me your take on it.
So right there, today, a couple minutes ago, an hour ago maybe, Franny on the Morning Heat on Blazing FM and said right out there that she went to St. Jude's yesterday because, you know what, she asked the Prime Minister to whether she could go and see it last week, and he said yeah, and took her and other members of the media down there to look at it, which again, how does that work? How does a government, how does a prime minister do that when people have to go through the protocols and send you letters and they're being told, you know what, not me, check somebody else, or let's have a meeting first, and you're saying, your minions are saying, let's wait until it's convenient, all that sort of thing, and all somebody else had to do was ask to go, and then they went. And even then, you see, and I see Ernest Hilaire looking incredulous. He could not believe that that is happening. We'll take your calls in just a minute, but let's hear from Franny herself on, you know, what it looked like, what that looked like.
Absolutely, for several reasons. Y'all best know, put some respect on it.
My people.
Mr. Hilaire, yes. I was with the Prime Minister yesterday and his media team. We went to St. Jude's Hospital. I asked to see it when he came. I criticized him when he was here about the hospital. I wasn't getting into the whole blame game, but I did ask for an update on the hospital, and he said that the hospital in part should be functional by the end of this year. I tilted my head a little bit because I've heard many times that the hospital will finish, as many of us solutions I've heard over the years. So I was a little bit, you know, shaky on that, like, okay, here we go, another promise for the hospital. He said, how about I take you down there? I said, great. I got the invitation to go, and I went yesterday. Walked through the hospital. I first went to the structure that was meant to be ready under the Labour Party.
Structures.
The structures.
Many structures.
Right. So I went through 3 of them. I didn't go through the chapel as a church building. I went through where the wards would have been, the pediatric part of it and everything. I went in and I completely understand the criticism of the smallness of the hallway, the height of the door, the height of the ceiling and everything. And I walked in as a random person. Again, I'm no professional, and I couldn't understand it. It was very small in truth. I heard a criticism, and I was there yesterday. It's very small in truth.
I will let you know I have not been there.
Yes, Scotty hasn't gone, but he did say you'll go.
Privy
but you said you would go, right?
I would go down to check.
Why you saying not privy? You didn't ask. I asked to go.
They tell me I'm a 50%.
That's not true. That wasn't that conversation. You didn't ask to go. I asked to go. I wanted to see it myself because I hear a lot about it. I wanted to see it.
When you finish, I'll respond.
So I went to the what they built recently. I went in, I went to all the levels, I walked through myself, I went outside, I saw the aluminum structures and everything that are inside, and it's huge. I was telling the guys it is huge. It took us a lot of time to get through it, and it does seem like a major improvement. Again, it's not finished, and I can attest to it not being finished, but a lot of work was done, and you can see that especially the bottom floor is in the final stages. I saw that myself. While there, I heard a lot of chatter about a letter and a request that was made. So maybe you can clarify that part for me. Have you guys seen the new structure, and what are your thoughts on it?
Well, that's the point. We've not seen it. But just think about that, Franny, for a moment, and I'll respond to what you said. There it is. We are hearing talk that they're going to be moving people into the structure in the next 2 to 3 months.
Right.
Moving people. We know the structure is nowhere near finished. We saw in the estimates that this government has spent $90 million on this structure.
We'll take your calls at 572-7588. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, caller. Okay, what happening there? Okay, I don't know what's happening here. Is the caller still on? Okay, we lost that caller. But for me and for you, for the people who want to know and the people who want to see, the media workers who didn't, you know, there were media people there clearly, but maybe it's, I don't know, it's maybe the friendly media to the government. How does that work? And I want, you're looking at Ernest Hilaire, looking at Franny, and Franny talking about, you know, the ceiling and this and this and this looks nice and everything. And you have someone who has sent a letter, an opposition has sent a letter, they've done what they had to do, and they're being told nothing, and all somebody else had to do was just to ask. What is the criteria to be respected by this administration, to be respected not just as an opposition, as a people generally, and nothing for that? Let's take the call. Good morning.
Good morning, Tresha.
Hi.
Tresha, in response to Timothy Polio's question last night on his show, Newsmaker Live, to the Prime Minister, in response to Polio's question to the Prime Minister about the opposition's request to visit St. Jude's, the Prime Minister said, I think, something to the effect that, well, he was not the one that the opposition wrote to. They wrote to the Minister for Economic Development, who is Guy Joseph. But he went on to say that he would suggest to the minister that they first have a technical meeting, and I suppose he was referring to meeting between the government's technical people and the opposition's technical people before they allowed the physical inspection or site visit or whatever. But I mean, this is laughable because this is like putting the cart before the horse. How could the opposition's technical people meet with the government's technical people if they have not yet seen the site? If the opposition's technical people have not yet seen the site, so they can make their observations, they can take their notes, etc., and then make their recommendations based on what they've seen, based on what they've observed, based on the notes that they've taken to the Prime Minister. I mean, this is laughable. But then, let me say something before I sign off. Let me say something to Peter Josie. Peter Josie said that Moses didn't lead the Israelites into the promised land. Aaron did. Josie, stop even on that you're misleading people.
Wasn't it Joshua?
Aaron didn't lead the Israelites into the promised land. Joshua did. You twit. Thanks, Tresha.
Twit. All right. Let's take the other call. Good morning.
Tresha, how are you?
I'm okay, sir.
I'm certainly beginning to think that Shasnes should not be welcomed in Beaufort. And I'm dog and dead serious about this thing. I mean, hear what I'm hearing. You denying the opposition a visit to the hospital, but generally, ordinarily, everybody who is your friend or not can go and visit the hospital. Well, let me say this to you, Trisha. I am going to make sure that people can be mobilized to visit in that hospital in hordes. And Shasne, I want him to come and see whether he can stop it. This has to be done. I am going to coerce my district representative and the one from Lalbri and Beaufort North to mount a huge undertaking in terms of numbers to visit that hospital and tell Shasne the nonsense that he continues to do in this country has to stop. Shasne has no brains. He has no foresight. He has no understanding. Okay, as I said to his friend the other day, he's a friend of that Amadelo on that show they have on mornings. We cannot tolerate this nonsense in this country. I'm seriously telling that, Trisha. We are going to mobilize people to go and visit that hospital if you want, and nobody can stop us. And to say the last, this Josie individual, this Peter Josie, he knows me. I'm Winston Luben. Tell him for me, please, if he knows Bible now, that I believe he was not baptized. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. We have another call. Good morning.
Hi, good morning, Tresha. Tresha, did I hear Franny correctly? Did Franny say that she just asked the Prime Minister to visit St. Jude Hospital site and he brought her down along with his media team?
Yeah, that's what you heard.
Tell me. That was what she said. And then she goes on to say she was able to see or understand the door being too small, the this being too the height, the this, the that. In what capacity was she speaking? And yes, she says she's not a professional and blah, 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 story. But if you're not a professional, what the hell are you talking about? Size of door, height of that, width of this, width of that. Is Franny's name Mark Hemicott? Is Franny's name John? Tell Franny we don't need her opinion, expertly or otherwise, to tell us about St. Jude that was constructed under the guidance of a man who knows what he's about.
But I don't think too that we should be placing, you know, any sort of animosity towards Franny. She asked to receive. When she said what she saw, we need to have a. We no.
Want, I place in my angst where I want.
I'm
sure you know we in Beaufort can't go and see St. Jude how we want, and Franny can just get a call from the Prime Minister.
But is Franny the problem for asking, or is the Prime Minister the problem for just deciding on who to go and who not to?
But Franny became the problem for stating what she saw. Don't say that. Let's move away from Franny.
No.
Let me tell.
I disagree with you on that one. Let's go. Wait, I think we have another call on hold. Let's go.
Let us agree to disagree on this one. I want to support Winston Lubin in the comments that he made there. I also want to state that if the Alan Chasney administration denies the St. Lucia Labour Party, okay, any permission to visit the St. Jude Hospital site, bearing in mind that we have representation from Labrie, Beaufort North, and Beaufort South that are going to be using or that require the services of St. Jude Hospital as our only hospital in the South. Of course, and let me tell you, going to the hospital site now is late. We should have done that years ago. Especially when Guy Joseph stopped to do the audit and when he come with a story and blah, blah. We should have done that years ago. That was way past due. And now at a point where we cannot sit back and just allow Alan Chasney to keep running roughshod on healthcare, and now you come and give us a 6 for a 9, rush the hospital just because you want to win an election. Laborians, Beaufortians, Jamaica, Southerners generally, it is time we let Alan Chasney know the importance of St. Jude Hospital, because he was told by the professionals that obtains in the current George Odlum National Stadium can fit in the eastern wing of the St. Jude Hospital. It was not open. It could have fitted there, and he opted to not listen to the professionals. Now we will opt to not listen to him, and he can jump high, he can jump low, he can listen, he can hear, he can do what he wants. But it's time we make a statement.
Thank you very much,
an equivocally very loud statement. No besoin l'hôpital. Bye-bye.
Thank you. We have another call on hold.
Good day, Tresha.
Good morning, sir.
That was long. Good morning. I was listening to the call. That was long.
Yes. Yeah.
Basically, let's get the point. Basically, we're looking at the right of the opposition to visit that site.
Yeah, that is what we have to stay on pause.
In light, that's a basic thing. The fact that this administration, and I keep saying it, is running the government of St. Lucia like a political party. Before any official visit at the site, the last time, which the caller alluded to, the government gave permission to a constituency group of the UWP with Nancy Charles and UWP operatives visiting that. And they had no right to do that. That's a government institution. The opposition is part of government. The 6 members of parliament are part of government. And they have every right to visit that site. And that excuse of they must have a technical meeting, that's bullshit.
Yes, it is.
Technical meeting for what? That's utter rubbish. What has to be done is the technical people who are on the project, you present yourself on the site, and then you answer questions from the opposition if they have any issue, and you provide the relevant information. Okay? And people, this time around, the opposition must not cower to that, and the people must not cower to that. That any delay or trying to deny. Okay? Alan Chasney is part of the executive, he's always there. The legislative branch of government, they are the ones approving money. They go there and they vote on it. They are part of government, they have a right. You're not doing them a favor, and people of Central need to understand, they are not doing us a favor. This is a government asset, and they're doing us no favor. And the people of Central better get ready to stand up if they deny it. Because the first time, when they were denied it, the first thing I said, people they do, go and occupy it. We don't want to do anything. Everybody want to go to heaven, but nobody want to die. People should just go there and occupy the site. Because they're looking for problems. Then people say, oh, violence and so on. But it's our property. So you have to be transparent. That's basically my point.
Thank you, sir.
We must not, that's basically my point. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Good morning.
Good morning, Trisha. How are you?
I'm okay.
Okay. You see, Alan Chasney lies, and Alan Chasney said last night that he was not written to, or the opposition wrote to Guy Joseph. But Franny comes this morning. Franny was invited. He was the one who invited Franny, because I think he was on the show. And this is a total, I don't blame Franny, this is a total disrespect to the opposition of St. Lucia. Why does Alan Chasney believe that St. Lucia belongs to him, or whatever structure, whatever assets belong to him and his father, Michael Chasney, and his group? It is sad, just sad day in St. Lucia. Thank you, Trisha.
Thank you. It is sad. And more than sad, if it doesn't anger you, then, people will be like, oh, it's the opposition. And there are ways of doing things. And this is just not the way. You see the vindictiveness. You see it. You hearing Josie calling to say that. You can see how one party is treated, one set of people are treated, and then, Franny is not the problem. She is probably a metaphor of the problem that, if Fortuna can ask her man to be working with her and be a driver, yes, she's wrong, but she did ask. So the onus really is on the Prime Minister to say, no, I will not do that. So if Franny is asking, she has a right to ask. If he said yes, then I think that too is the problem. So when she come back and saying what she saw, there's no problem in that piece. The problem is accountability. The problem is the way of good governance. The problem is that we must focus on the issue. And it is true, because if we're seeing how other people are treated, and all Franny is just really showing us the way that this Prime Minister operates. So even when we talk about, they had a media delegation. Who was there? What media delegation? Members of the media didn't know anything. News media did not know. And they chose who went there. Miguel, did you? Riani, did you? Amani Matre, did you? We have another call? Good morning. I think you're our final caller.
Good morning, Trisha. How are you?
I'm okay.
Well, you heated there for a second, so I'll jump into the fire with you just now. I've seen y'all on YouTube. Y'all look very HD and lit, so I must say, nice to watch y'all on YouTube.
Thank you.
Let me tell you, this Prime Minister as he should be called, the opposition needs to be careful. This sort of politeness they continue to do, to write, and all of this is why many of us are questioning whether or not they are ready to lead. Aside from that, we know that Alan Chasney and the corrupt despots that are there will go. You can see it on their face. You can see the smugness and arrogance and shame that we need to continue to met at them when they sit and they get the questions, because independent voters like myself, who may have voted for UWP on the fact that they would have taken out the VAT, they would have worked at reducing the civil servants, have changed their minds. No matter how Alan wants to cut that bread and slice that piece of cake, the independent voters and the people who have vision and views of they're not SLP or they're not UWP have made up their minds that no matter what, we are not going to let Alan Chasney and the thieves, the criminals we see every day on TV shaming themselves that Cambridge Analytica cannot save them from. They are showing us their true colors. The SLP cannot continue to act politely and work within these sort of democratic politeness of the institutions. Alan has eroded that. As Adrian has said, and I will continue to do, I will shame every politician that steps forward in the UWP party. Every time they say something, remind them of what they've said and shame them for their words. So that's one. I have a question, Tresha. The cruise sector that we're going to be opening, apparently, that's coming forward, have people looked at who is on that committee? The people who are going to be benefiting from this sector are the ones, Cox and Company, this and the other. It's not going to benefit St. Lucians, everyday St. Lucians. You don't think when they open that cruise sector, what they're going to do? They're going to put a massive dome and bubble around that ship that only those who have licenses, friends and family and all those other things are the ones that are going to get the licenses to benefit, because they, of course, need to protect the population from the COVID numbers that are coming in, almost 1,000 people on a ship. So do I expect people to just walk into the market? So the question is, how is reopening the sector going to benefit the everyday St. Lucian and the national economy, the local economy? Have people thought about that? They're doing it again, and they're going to screw us royally. The Cox and Companies, the Bobras, all those big names that are there that are
Cox and Company
benefiting
going to screw us. I think that should be the slogan.
Yeah, the people who have benefited for generations. When you look at the cruise sector or the tourism sector, it's a 2 to 5% part of any population and company structure that benefits. Everything else leaves the country, and there's no filtering down anymore. We need to start being able to hold them accountable and make no apologies. Yeah, and I think the SLP, again, when they get into office, they need to be able to put the right things in place, because they are not coming in to do what they did before. We are holding them accountable. Our institutions need to be rebuilt, and we need to have transparency to hold the people that we elect into office. Because you know what? If that doesn't happen, and sorry for speaking so long, we need to start tarring and feathering and shaming them. You see, if Alan decides that he's going to leave St. Lucia after stealing millions of dollars and set foot in Canada, there are many of us that are waiting for him to come here too, because you cannot leave with such resources and expect to get refuge somewhere else. Shame them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Colin. And you're making a very important point too, because I do understand that you have to go through the processes, due process and writing and everything like that. But there comes a point at which you've seen that ain't making sense. How do you play a game? How do you work with someone who doesn't abide by the rules? We have our final last. Okay, let's take it very quickly. Caller, you are our final call.
Boy, Tresha, I've been trying for the longest while, and now you...
Oh, Jay, sorry. That's
anyway.
Let's go.
Anyway, Tresha, anytime I call your show or Christopher, it's always when I don't understand something. So I always want, to...
Clarification?
For somebody to rearrange my ignorance. Let's put it that way.
Okay. I'm not sure I'm the person.
Tresha, how the opposition apply or request of the government to have a visit of the St. Jude's property? And basically, to me, what the impression I'm getting, they're refusing because Alan Chasney is saying he's not the one. But however, I understand he's the Prime Minister, but he say he's not the one that the opposition placed the request to, and is the minister responsible for economic development. As far as I'm concerned, it should have been the Minister of Health. But anyways, yet still, somebody, a journalist or a talk show host, I don't know how you refer to them, actually expressed some doubts and the Prime Minister actually extended an invitation to her. And lo and behold, she was actually invited, and she went and she came back with a report. I don't understand that. The opposition is the official opposition. They are the official opposition, and I take it that a request like that should have been, a consideration should have been given to a request like that. And an ordinary citizen can get the request met, and the opposition cannot get. I don't understand it.
And I think that's the. Thank you very much, caller. I think we have to end it here. I appreciate your call and the uncertainty out of all this. You don't understand it because I don't think that is the way right-thinking solutions think. So yeah, you're confused, and I think many people are. But what I'm not confused about is, and what I know for sure is that this is just in keeping with the way that the Prime Minister does business, with the way that he treats people that he thinks are against him. If you're not literally kissing ass, then you're not going to get anywhere. So this is where we are, and this is the reality of our situation. And for say Javier for Ukatan Guma. We'll end it there. I want to thank all of you for watching and for listening. As always, I always appreciate it. And we'll continue to have more of these discussions with the same honesty that we always do. And we will hopefully see you same place, same time, but until then, have a good one.
I can't